Open any stuck jar lid in a second, even without a professional bottle opener. I used to ask my husband to open every stubborn jar in the house because I thought my hands just weren't strong enough. But he wasn't always right there when I needed to open one. On those days, I found myself struggling alone, twisting and turning until my hands actually hurt. That's when I decided to figure out what was really making those lids stick in the first place. And what I discovered completely changed the way I opened jars from that day on. Hi friends, it's Nancy here. Today, I'm going to share the 5 simple methods I trust most to safely and gently break that seal. And the last one is the method I turn to when everything else just doesn't work. Be sure to watch all the way to the end of the video. And you may just be surprised to discover that opening that lid is much easier than you ever imagined. Let's start with the first method, tapping around the lid. One afternoon, while I was trying to open a jar of pickles, I suddenly remembered something my mother used to do. Instead of fighting with the lid, she would gently tap around the edge using the back of a spoon. So I decided to give it a try. I took a regular metal spoon and lightly tapped all the way around the rim of the lid. You don't need to hit it hard, just use firm, steady taps as you move in a circle. You can also use the handle of a butter knife or any sturdy kitchen tool that feels secure in your hand. After tapping around the lid for about 10 to 15 seconds, I tried twisting it again. To my surprise, the lid came off smoothly. Those small taps help break the vacuum seal inside the jar. Once that seal is loosened, you don't need nearly as much strength. Usually, a gentle twist with your hand is all it takes. Do your hands ever get sweaty like mine? If that happens to you too, this second method can truly make a noticeable difference. If you've been trying to open a jar and the lid keeps slipping in your hand, the problem may not be a lack of strength. It may be friction. When your hand slides over the smooth metal surface of the lid, you lose the grip you need to create steady, controlled twisting force. The harder you try to turn it, the more your hands may sweat and the harder it becomes to open. Sometimes there's even a thin layer of oil on the lid, which makes the surface even more slippery. A very simple solution is to put on a pair of rubber gloves. Then twist the lid as you normally would. You'll likely notice that it opens much more easily. The reason this works is that it increases the friction between your hand and the lid. When friction increases, slipping decreases. This method works best when the lid is only moderately tight and your hands still have enough strength. If the vacuum seal inside is especially strong, you may need to loosen it first using another technique. I'll share that next. For me, this third method is one of the most effective ways to open a stubborn jar, especially when it feels completely stuck. First, I turn the jar upside down on the table. Then I take a knife with a firm, narrow tip or the pointed tip of a pair of kitchen scissors. Gently place the tip under the slightly indented edge of the lid and press down just a little. Move slowly and carefully. Don't push the knife in too deeply. And make sure your hands are dry so nothing slips. Listen closely. You may hear a soft pop or a faint hiss. That's the sound of air flowing back into the jar. Once that happens, twisting the lid becomes much easier. What you're doing is breaking the vacuum seal. When a jar is sealed, the air pressure inside is lower than the pressure outside. By letting a small amount of air in, the pressure balances out. Once the pressure is equalized, the lid usually twists off gently without much effort. Here is another simple method, especially effective when the lid feels tight but not quite impossible. Take the jar to the sink and run warm water directly over the metal lid for about 30 to 60 seconds. Make sure the water flows only around the lid, not over the entire jar. You need to focus the heat on the exact spot that matters. Warm temperature causes metal to expand slightly. The lid is made from a thin layer of metal, so it reacts to heat much faster than the thick glass jar underneath. Glass expands more slowly. That small difference in expansion speed is often enough to loosen the seal. After warming the lid, dry it completely with a kitchen towel. This step is very important so your hand doesn't slip. Then try twisting the lid while it is still warm. You will feel the lid release much more easily, without having to use much strength. Won't you? This is a gentle and practical tip, based on the simple scientific principle that heat expands and cold contracts. Based on this principle, you simply need to heat the lid, and everything will become much easier. What about you? Do you have another way to warm up the lid? I'd love for you to share it with me. Finally, I want to show you the method I usually rely on when a lid absolutely refuses to budge. This approach works very well, even if your hand strength isn't what it used to be. First, find a sturdy wooden or bamboo stick. Then prepare a piece of string. You can pull a string from a shopping bag, a gift bag, or even cut a narrow strip from an old item you no longer use. Wrap the string tightly around the lid of the jar. Tie it securely, but leave a small loop or opening. Next, slide the wooden or bamboo stick through that opening. Once the stick is in place, twist it a few more turns so the string tightens completely around the lid. The tighter the string wraps, the better it works. Now hold the jar steady and use the stick to turn counterclockwise. The principle behind this method is leverage. The stick acts as a lever, increasing your turning force without requiring extra hand strength. In most cases, the lid will loosen almost immediately. For women whose grip strength is weaker, this is often the most effective way to deal with stubborn jars. Opening a stubborn jar should never feel like a test of your strength. In reality, these jars are sealed under pressure, based on the simple principle that heat expands and cold contracts. When a jar is filled and then cools down, the air inside contracts and creates a vacuum. That vacuum pulls the lid down tightly, almost as if it were glued shut. So, those are the 5 jar opening methods I've found the most helpful, most of the time. We struggle with these stubborn jars without realizing the real solution is simply understanding what's happening inside the lid and choosing the right way to handle it. Try one method at a time, stay gentle, and always keep your hands dry for safety. Sometimes just a small adjustment can protect your wrists and make everyday cooking much easier. I hope one of these tips helps you the next time a jar won't open. Take good care of your hands and make your time in the kitchen a little simpler and more comfortable. If you found this video helpful, please give it a like and subscribe to the channel. Don't forget to share it with your friends. Thank you so much for your support. Goodbye, and I'll see you in the next video.